That's us? All right. So this is Elijah May here in the Funded House with two friends who I've only just met, but I feel like I've known them for a while. We've got Michael and Isaac, who are with the Tide Foundation. So just for starters, maybe you guys can help us understand what is the Tide Foundation, because as we know, in the U.S. we immediately think, pods that kids are eating, but that's not what we're talking about here, right?
Tide Foundation is a not-for-profit that aims to solve what could or should be a human right, which is data privacy, but in a manner that is commercial and sustainable. We're the creators of open source software called the Tide Protocol, which businesses can adopt to protect the personal data that they hold and give control and autonomy of that data to their customers, to their consumers.
I'm going to try to understand this from a sort of layman's standpoint, if you will. So, all right, let's use an analogy. So we hear about, data breaches all the time. It seems like every big brand, every couple of months, is like, oh, 4 billion records, that's out there. Sorry. Nothing really happens. So are you suggesting that there's some way to stop that from happening?
Absolutely. I think what the Tide Protocol does is it allows a business to encrypt your data that you own and give you the key back to it. And in that scenario, it means that the business could no longer use your data. And if someone breaches the business, it doesn't matter. It does not have your personal data. It's got a whole bunch of encrypted data, and you as the consumer who own that data has the only key to it.
Well, let me see if I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
so what we're saying is that my data is in a little locked box, and it might be at a big brand's. It's in their warehouse. But it doesn't matter if somebody sneaks in the warehouse because I'm the only one with the key to the box that has my data in it. How do you do that? This is like the holy grail of sort of like encryption. Am I wrong?
It's it's a combination. First of all, just a change in mindset.
Okay.
So the way that the internet grew, people gravitated towards free services, not realizing that we became the product when we had these free services. Due to data breaches and a whole bunch of very high-profile, inappropriate use of data.
Right.
Certainly some people have started to become more aware. Governments have certainly become more aware and realize that they need to do something about it. But the mindset has always been, once I have that data, even the way that CRMs have been built historically is like, once I have that data, it's mine. I can mine the hell out of it now. So it's only really now that you've got the introduction of privacy legislation being led by Europe with the GDPR that has carries some teeth, and the fines that come with breaching these data laws are significant, and they've now started to hurt the bottom line of businesses. And so corporations, enterprise is now kind of thinking about privacy differently, and the impetus is there for a change in behavior. And so first, the most difficult thing is just a change in mindset, and that's happening due to market forces.
Is that what it's going to take, do you think? Is it going to take, the idea that without consequence, the businesses really aren't going to behave better? They'll talk a good game, they'll get their PR team to issue a statement, but at the end of the day, or basically, is the premise here that they're just not going to really change their behavior unless there's some consequence for behaving poorly?
Look, I think as Mike says, it's a combination of mindset and awareness from consumers demanding a certain level of service from businesses. Mm-hmm. And part of that service is also protect my identity. But that just isn't enough. We need to be able to give businesses a commercial reason. That's why businesses are there. A commercial reason to actually add to their service and to their value proposition your data protection. And that together is what's going to change the paradigm. It's going to allow us as consumers to own our data because we enable businesses to provide us with a better service and to make money in that relationship.
All right, I want to explore that a little bit. Owning your data. I've hosted a panel called the Health of the Future, and there's a big debate in hospitals about whether or not the patient owns the data or the hospital owns the data. So, for instance, if you are a patient and you end up going to a new hospital, they're like, well, no, the data's not yours. We did the work and we own it. So but you're saying it's your data, you own it. How do I attach it to you?
So there's, I guess, a differentiation we make when we talk about what's yours and what's mine. So in the Tide protocol, an individual owns their identity, owns their personal information. That's not to say that an organization, whether it's a medical center or an e-commerce site or a social media site, doesn't add a huge amount of value on top of that data. So those insights from that unique interaction with that particular organization or that particular business with that individual, that's the IP of the company. That was a whole, a bunch of custom algorithms, data scientists, all kinds of really clever people creating insights to improve the customer experience or to make that data more valuable for sale to third parties. Now, our philosophy, our concept says that, well, if you're selling those insights without selling me, my personal information or my attention, that's your IP. But as soon as you're attaching those insights that in a manner that's not anonymized, I'm now a party to that transaction and you need my permission for that. And I should also get a share in the remuneration because I'm adding value to the value that you've created. If you're selling anonymized data, that's only so valuable to third parties. If you're selling that data to third parties with my personal details so that they can contact me, they can put a banner in front of me, well, you've just changed the value of that data and supercharged it, and you've done that off my back. Okay. So with my permission, with me being a party to that transaction and having a share in that value chain, with my consent, that's fine.
So many did gross simplification in email marketing for a long time, and it's a really standard protocol to buy a list, even though it's legal to buy the list, but it's illegal to email people.
That's
right. Right. Yep. But everybody does it anyway. You got to prove whatever. So if I'm grossly oversimplifying what you said, is the idea that if you sell a list with my email in it, I participate, because that's my data, I get compensated for that. Not just whoever happened to get hold of my email address.
Absolutely.
Is that kind of the right idea?
Yep.
Yeah.
So do brands balk at this because they're like, well, how are we supposed to make money? Or are they on board with the idea that they want to protect their customers?
This is a mission critical solution for businesses. Because if we think about it, businesses have our personal data. And guess what?
Yes, they do.
Criminals want to steal it.
Yeah, and they do all day long.
And they do all day long, right? And when they do, it costs the business a ton of money. Not just money, but reputation.
Insurance.
And engagement with customers. So businesses want to be able to continue to do business with you, but take the poison out of the database. That poison is actually your personal data.
Not long ago, I get some sort of a fraud alert pops up on it, and they're like, somebody bought a bunch of TVs in Utah. And then I'm like, wasn't in Utah, right? So they reimburse me. I've been with the bank long enough. They protect me. But when I asked how does this happen, they're like, it's not even worth asking. I'm like, what do you mean? They just don't even bother to try. That's how insecure data is right now. They're like, could have been anywhere.
You know what? Even some of the biggest companies in the world, you can imagine they spend a huge amount of money on securing their infrastructure, their data. And they will pay a huge amount of money to do that. They really don't want that data to be breached. But you've got potentially state actors like North Korea hacking Sony, for example. So hackers are generally always one step ahead.
Yeah, it's not like this idea of this guy in the hood in the back room. It's you're talking about a coordinated,
maybe a room full
funded,
of thousands of people
infrastructure
with endless budgets, whose mission it is to hack critical systems, and because that information is so valuable. So it's less a matter of, will I get hacked, and more a matter of when. The question is...
I've heard that exact thing. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. All right. So now I'm going to bring us part. We're supposed to be talking about growth. So you've got a growing company. You're young, but you've got one of those solutions that kind of basically everybody needs. Where do you start, right? How do you even... from a market standpoint, where do you deploy this technology first?
I think the way to approach it from our perspective is to reduce friction in adoption.
Okay.
And to do that, we needed to make sure that the Tide Foundation is a non-for-profit entity.
Oh, okay.
And it is the custodian of the protocol, which means that if a business is going to adopt the protocol, they're no longer thinking, I'm adopting it from a for-profit company that might change the terms, change the license fees. I can't work with a competitor. I'm actually working with a non-for-profit company. I can sit on the board. A competitor can sit on the board. Together, we can make sure that this protocol, which is delivering benefits to me today, will continue to evolve alongside technology. So the first thing was to think of how do we remove friction in terms of a business wanting to adopt it. The next thing is to figure out how do we get scale in adoption. And for us that meant that if we're a non-for-profit entity and we have an open source protocol, someone needs to integrate that protocol into the technological stack of a business.
Right.
So for us, we work with system integrators.
Okay.
And those system integrators see Tide as a solution for their customers and a revenue channel for themselves. So they go back to the customer and say, you've got personal data, you've got liability, adopt a Tide protocol, we have a solution for you, you can do it yourself or we can integrate it. And now that gives us an approach to the market which removes friction from all angles.
That's fascinating. So I love metaphors. I abuse metaphors a lot. So it's sort of like you guys are like you're selling the bulletproof vest, and we're like, if you need protection, buy the vest, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what company you are or what problem you're like. If you need this protection, we have this thing that you can wrap around yourself and you can kind of protect.
Except in that metaphor, we're giving you the vest, or we're telling your tailor how to make that vest. And you go to your tailor, he'll charge you to make that vest, but you get that from us for free.
Fascinating. But somehow, this is the only part I don't is that you're sustainable. You do have a business model. You're not just giving it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does that work? How does the business model work from your perspective?
So the way it works is the idea is, again, with a not-for-profit, that ultimately the community can also benefit financially from the proposition. And the idea of that is that it is a commercial proposition, again, so that it is sustainable. Mm-hmm. So when data is traded from a business or a vendor to a third party with the consent of those consumers, that a transaction is clipped by the network and shared amongst security owners or security token holders of that network, and those owners can be anyone. Those owners can be consumers. Those owners could be businesses or the third parties, the media agencies that are also.
Well, not exactly. It's sort of like one of those equity crowdfunding plays where you can come and you can participate. Am I misrepresenting it?
No. I think that if we look at that, yes, it is. It is a way for a non-for-profit entity to actually provide an investor base. So investors can actually come in and say, you know what, I believe that the protocol is going to be widely adopted.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invest. And my return now does not hamper the non-for-profit side. My return is actually a percentage of the transactions that happen in the network.
This is very cool.
It is. It's actually super cool. It's a unique financial structure. It's an innovative approach to it. And it's something we're actually really excited to be a part of.
Okay, so let's just wind it off fun note. I appreciate you guys doing this. This is fascinating technology. You guys are here at South by Southwest. You flew in from Australia, which is a little bit of a trip. Yeah. What's been your favorite part of this experience so far?
Well, for me, I think it was eating real barbecue for the first time last night. I'm still digesting, but I was suffering from jet lag terribly until I had that barbecue, and then I slept like a baby.
Fantastic.
I'm gonna I'll take the opportunity to give a shout out to Austrade and Australia House. We had an awesome time at G'day USA. And, I think that for me that was a real highlight, being amongst
That's fantastic.
everyone that just came together around that central concept.
If everybody's wondering, we just got the flick of the lights, like
Yeah.
we got to go home. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you taking the time
No
to do
worries.
the interview, and I'm glad you enjoyed
Thank
your
you.
trip.
Thanks, man.
Got some barbecue.
Yeah.
Alrighty.